You're listening to episode 61 of the Fed and Fearless podcast. On today's episode, I'm chatting with Laura Lindahl about how Christian women can confidently build strength without becoming body obsessed. So stay tuned. Hi, I'm Laura Schoenfeld. I'm a registered dietitian and coach trained in functional medicine with a passion for helping women just like you ditch perfectionism and use food, fitness, and self-care to fuel your bigger God-given purpose. I believe that it's possible to achieve your biggest life-changing goals without the frustration, obsession, or negative self-talk that so many women subject themselves to every day. All you need are the right tools, the right mindset, and the faith to turn your dreams into reality. I'm here to guide you along the way. The truth is that you are so much more than a body, and I'm on a mission to help you change the way you think and act at a core beliefs level so you can transform your physical, mental, and spiritual health from the inside out. Are you ready to become fed and fearless in your pursuit of a healthy, meaningful life? Welcome to the Fed and Fearless podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Fed and Fearless podcast. I'm Laura Schoenfeld, your host as always, and today's episode is really special for me because I'm getting to interview a client of mine who I have been able to see walk through the beginning stages of growing a business to a place where she's doing so amazingly with being able to coach other women and being able to have her impact on the world. So I was super pumped to bring this person on the show with me today for a variety of reasons. One of them is just getting the chance to talk to her about her philosophy on fitness and combining fitness with her faith, and also just getting an opportunity to discuss health and wellness from an identity perspective. This guest is someone who I have a lot in common with as far as her perspective is concerned. And while I always love having diversity of opinions and perspectives and everything on this show, it's sometimes fun to just be able to chat with somebody who agrees with you about so many things, if not the vast majority of things that we discussed. So really excited for this interview. And I think that you're going to love it, whether or not you're a Christian. I think you're going to get a lot from this episode to learn about how to detach your identity from your fitness and to really be able to root your identity in something more unchanging like your faith. So today's episode is with Laura Lindahl. Laura is a nationally certified exercise physiologist, eat to perform nutrition coach, wife, dog mom, Enneagram Three, and avid lover of Jesus. After graduating with her degree in exercise science and spending years in the fitness industry, she started to realize all the negative effects that fitness can have on a woman's view of her body and her faith. She saw bodies shamed, relationships hurt, and faith neglected, all in the name of being fit. That's when Laura decided to create her True Strength collective coaching programs. Her True Strength method guides women on a journey to identify what limiting beliefs they have about their body and their faith so they can finally find freedom from body pressures, find knowledge to confidently build strength, and unshakable faith. Laura's clients train smarter and not harder. They find peace in their true identity, and best of all, they can finally view their body in the mirror with true confidence. So, like I said, Laura is so awesome. She's really great at helping people separate their fitness pursuits from their personal identity and to really ask the tough questions that help us make sure that our pursuit of fitness and health in general is based on the desire to care for our bodies and to steward our bodies well, rather than to just look a certain way or to fit societal expectations of what a good body is. So I'm super pumped to have Laura on the show today, and I think you will very much enjoy our conversation. So without further ado, here is Laura Lindahl. All right, everybody. Well, I am super excited to have with me here on the show today, Laura Lindahl. How are you doing today, Laura?
Hey, Laura, I am doing fantastic. How are you?
Good. And we were literally just talking before I hit record about how you were listening to this podcast when we launched a little over a year ago, and now you're on the podcast, which is really cool.
Yeah. So cool. Full circle. Full circle.
Yeah.
So glad to be here.
And I was going to say that your business is definitely very well aligned with the topic of the podcast, which is perfect because I know you'll have a lot of really great wisdom to share with our audience. And it's, I don't want to say from like a totally different perspective, but because you're more of the fitness side of the equation and focused on training and, you know, just the strength and all of that side of the equation, I think it'll be a really cool, different angle, but still with a very similar philosophy. So, but just so our audience can get to know you a little bit, can you tell us your story about how you got so passionate about combining faith with fitness?
Yeah, of course. I feel like with any combination of things, you kind of have to start off with one. So I definitely started my journey in fitness pretty young through sports. And my mom was an avid runner, so I would see her go out for a run. She was also, you know, kind of looking back on it now, she also was, you know, doing Weight Watchers at the time and Atkins diet and kind of hopping from diet to diet. So pretty young, I was exposed to diet. I was exposed to exercise, and it was made a very big part of both of my parents' lives. My dad ran like marathons and all of that. And so it was definitely something that I started off just seeing like, okay, this is a normal part of life, and just having it labeled as a good thing. And unfortunately, in my broken mind, it very quickly became a God thing. And it really, I would say, kind of evolved through college. I got my degree in exercise science, which at that time I was like, this is really great. I wanted to pursue a career in physical therapy. And so I went through college, and a few things kind of changed in my mind as I viewed fitness as a way to not just be reactive about injury, but actually to prevent injury. And so I really kind of chose more of a route in personal training for that reason. And if I'm being completely honest and candid, I think that I really wanted to become a personal trainer because I felt like if I was a personal trainer, then like I would be seen as successful in the realm of like health and fitness. And that very quickly was dashed. But I just found that by choosing that career, I could kind of suit that bill of being proactive and being helpful to people in general. So I started as a trainer in a small physical therapy office. I ran my own physical therapy, like personal training. After clients would graduate from therapy, I would be their personal trainer, and it was great. And I gradually moved into a bigger box gym. I became a master level trainer. And I started to see this kind of alarming trend in both my clients and my own self personally. The closer I got to becoming my ideal body fat percentage, the closer I got to becoming lean, the more addicted I was to it. And so I would find myself just restricting my food even more. Like I had cut down from like 1,500 calories to 1,300 calories and increased my training from like 3 days a week wasn't enough to get results anymore. So I needed to train 5 days a week. And so I just kind of found myself getting closer and closer to what felt like this corner of like, well, how many more hours left in a day can I spend training? How many less calories can I consume? And so I kind of cornered myself into this very dark place where I couldn't walk past a mirror without feeling like shame or guilt, or looking at my legs or looking at my butt and thinking like, how did my pants make them look, and all of these things. So I really cornered myself there, and I would say I hit a very, very hard wall. One day I did a CrossFit class because that's what you do when you want to go extreme. So I went extreme, and I remember after the class, I pretty much just passed out because of exhaustion. And it became very apparent to me that I had taken a good thing and that I had made it a God thing in my life. And it had really literally ruled me physically, emotionally, spiritually. Like it had taken away my time with friends, taken away my time spent that's like part of my faith, taken away my time with my husband. And so it had become a God thing in my life. And I read a verse in Romans 5:8, and it says, God demonstrates his love for us while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. And that taught me in that moment that I couldn't do anything more to make God love me more. And I couldn't do anything so bad to make God love me less. And I started to really dig deep into the why behind what I was doing. Like, why did I have to eat 1,300 calories a day? Why was I training so much? And it really was for the affirmation of others. Like, I wanted people to view me as a successful trainer. I wanted people to view me as, you know, someone who like knows their stuff because they look like a CrossFit athlete or whatever it was. So I really really began taking a step back. I actually stepped away from exercise for a while, and I took some time to really restore my identity and who I was and why I was who I was, what made me successful. Was it me or was it God? And after doing that, I actually got back into exercise in a very moderative approach. I started tracking my macros in a way that is sustainable for me so that I know I'm actually eating enough food, and just providing extra levels of accountability through a coach there. So I would say, it led me to a point where I realized I wasn't the only woman struggling with this. And I saw that trend continuously in my clients. And so I had this passion to step into a field that is very much so filled with good people who are doing good things, but making them God things in their body and making it rule their life. And so, I would say I was believing the biggest lie. We're going to talk about this today, but I would say I was believing the biggest lie that if you become more fit, you'll become more fulfilled in your life. And I would say, at the root of it, to answer your question, that's it. I discovered a lie that I was believing, and I became a passionate person to help other people not believe that lie.
I love it. It sounds so familiar to me as far as the story is concerned. And I think I had a very similar type of experience, not so much about exercise specifically. I mean, I was definitely very, very active in college. I was a volleyball player. I did do a lot of the physical training and all of that. But I think for me, a lot of it was wrapped up in nutrition and diet and having the perfect diet and all of that stuff. And I definitely resonated a lot with your story. And I think a lot of our listeners are going to resonate because, again, this whole podcast is about using health as a tool to pursue your purpose. And it sounds like for a period of time, you were really focused on fitness as being your purpose.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. It was all of my life. It was my career. It was my hobby. It was everything, for sure.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned feeling like you had bought into this lie in the fitness industry. And I don't know how many of your clients, well, I know that since you talk about your faith and everything in your business, that a lot of your clients probably are of that same mindset, but I don't think that that's the typical environment in the fitness industry where people are talking about idolatry and how your body can become an idol so easily. I really think in the fitness industry and in the health industry in general, I think a lot of this has come up even worse this year, where people are seeing that their health is not so much in their control, and it's really wrecking a lot of people. I don't know if we're going to go into that or anything, but even just with the fitness piece, where a lot of times the industry itself is driven by this idolatry over a result or an appearance or the illusion of health. Because a lot of times, as people that look a certain way don't necessarily have the best health. So what were some of the lies that you feel like either you were believing or you just feel like you're seeing in the fitness industry that are harming women especially?
Yeah. There are so many. And I've definitely spent a lot of time as I think about how to approach my clients and how to think about how to meet them where they're at. It's really, I did some homework to kind of dig into what are all of these roots that I can see, all of these things that are sprouting up, the Google searches that they do, the things that they follow on Instagram, social media, what products they're buying into. And I think that all of them actually root back to a deeper lie that a lot of them might not actually know that they're believing and acting on a daily basis. And that is that their worthiness is rooted in their body, whether it is how their body feels, how their body acts, how their body looks, whatever it is, that determines their emotions on a daily basis. So when their body looks good, they're feeling happy. When their body looks bad, they're feeling fat or frustrated or fat. So it's something to think about. But I think at the root of it, and there may be some followers who are listening here and say oh no, that's not me. I don't find my worth in my body. But ways that can sprout out would be seeing yourself in the mirror. You don't see yourself neutrally in the mirror. You see yourself and you feel frustrated, or you see yourself and you see your eyes automatically just zoom into your imperfections, your legs, your arms, your stomach, whatever it is for you. Instead of searching in Google how to get stronger, you're searching for best exercises to burn belly fat or best exercises to get rid of cellulite, whatever it is, you're searching for that. And all of these, again, are looking for ways to fix our worthiness. And so another one would be, instead of choosing foods that fuel your body on a daily basis, we restrict carbs or sugar or desserts until we're so hangry, like not even our dog wants to be around us, right? So I'd say that the problem with believing all of these lies is that other things sprout up around it, right? Other things like lifting weights would make you heavy, or lifting weights would make you bulky. Eating less and doing more cardio is how you burn fat is another one, big one. You can have an ideal body weight. You have to be a certain weight to be healthy, and you can crunch your way to big abs. Like those are all things that I think at one point or another we've all believed or we've all heard. And they all do root back to finding that worthiness in your body, of allowing you to be your own savior and fix yourself. And I think that it really roots back to, like you had mentioned before, that idolatry. So I think I probably answered your question, but also sprouted out some new questions. But yeah, I'd say there's a lot of lies specifically that women are believing today in the fitness industry. At the root of it, it is that our worthiness is found in our body. And because our worthiness is found in our body, we need to do all of the things, ABC. We need to start doing all of the things to fix ourselves. Mm-hmm. And in that, we'll find worthiness, success, contentment.
Yeah. Well, and I even maybe want to define idolatry for people, partially because there may be some non-Christian listeners that are like, what, what is that? And then the ones who are Christian, you know, a lot of times you think of, like, whenever I hear the word idolatry, literally I have a flashback to like the 10 Commandments where they're building that golden calf and Charlton Heston's like all pissed off about it. Like that's like the image that comes to my mind, which for sure is a very obvious form of idolatry. But I think obviously we're not building altars to, you know, other gods or something in our living room. So most people don't really necessarily think of their behavior as being idolatry. But can you just kind of explain a little bit, like, what is idolatry in the sense of like the fitness and health space?
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna pass that to someone who is way wiser than me. Tim Keller has a fantastic book out there called Counterfeit Gods. And he talks a lot about that. And he defines an idol as something that we look for that only God can give. So for example, if in our body we're looking for being seen as accepted, or if we're looking for being seen as healthy, you know, even I think the concept of being healthy, like, oh, that's like, they're just so healthy. I think that can become an idol. But anything that we're looking for acceptance from, God gives us acceptance. God gives us success. God gives us contentment. God gives us peace. And we're looking for those things in something other than God. I would say that's an idol. It's something that we're trying to, I believe every person has like a cross-shaped heart in their hole, or hole in their heart. And we try to, you know, jam a bunch of things in there: fitness, food, clothes, all of the things that I think this world tries to distract us with. We try to jam a lot of things in there. And unless it's shaped like that cross, it's just not going to fit in. It might hold the place for a little bit, but it's not going to last, and it's just not going to make us whole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think I always think about it as being like, where does your peace come from as well? Mm-hmm. Like if you see your reflection in the mirror and you're like, oh, I like how I look today. Like, does that create peace for you for that day? Versus if you see yourself in the mirror and you're like, oh, I feel like my muffin top is like hanging over my jeans. Now I'm going to be in a bad mood all day. That's obviously where you're getting your peace from. And that's a lot of times that's the question I ask myself, because even with the identity or the acceptance piece, I still think like you can move beyond looking for acceptance from others and get into a place where it's just, again, where you get your security from. And I think this year, especially, there's a lot of people that are realizing that putting their security in their physical health is not something that is secure, right? Like it's not something that is going to last, whether or not you have the perfect health for your entire life. You live to 110, you're going to die at some point. And so your health is actually not permanent, even if it's in good shape. And if it's not in good shape, then again, that being unhealthy or having a health challenge does not affect your ability to live a really, meaningful life and to enjoy your life and to, serve others and all of that stuff. So I do think knowing where your peace is coming from, because for me, a lot of times, like, I feel like you move from like one idol to the other. And I've heard somebody, and I forget who this quote is by, but basically they're like, the heart is an idol factory. So basically the human heart is always like finding a new thing, like you said, to try to put in that hole to feel fulfilled, to feel safe, to feel secure, to feel peace. And even though the world is telling us, oh, looking beautiful and looking hot in a bikini, like that's where you get your value, or, oh, the number of zeros you have in your bank account, like that's what gives you your value, or that's what, shows you that you're safe and secure because you're, financially secure. I just feel like at some point there's always a risk of it going away. And for some of it will go away. Like we know it will. So it's hard. It's not something that I think any of us have like totally nailed, but I think the more we can start to notice it in our own lives and not just like accept it as like, well, that's just the way things are. Cause I do think we're called to not buy into culture, and we really need to be monitoring what we're pursuing, what we're worrying about, what we are putting our peace and security in. Cause like you said, none of that was what we were designed for, and none of it will be lasting, and it will cause problems at some point, whether it's causing problems now or, 20 years from now. And I think the sooner we can identify it and like strip that out of our lives as far as it being an idol, doesn't mean you don't get to work out anymore. It just means like, I'm not going to wrap my entire identity and peace and security around like, did I work out today? That I think is so important. And I'm sure you run into a lot of women who really do have like their entire emotional health is attached to whether or not they got a workout in that morning.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I was asked one time, what's the one thing, if it was taken out of your life, would completely wreck you? And then they asked me that in the midst of my like very, very dark tunnel that I was in. And it just like, it shocked me. I was like, well, my health, absolutely. If someone took away my health, if something happened to me, I'd feel like a failure because, I'm supposed to be this super healthy, ultra, athlete thing who is a trainer. And so it's very true. And a lot of clients struggle with that. I'd say the biggest way that I've seen clients gain freedom from that is just being daily renewed in the word. It's that daily reset of, okay, like, who am I and what am I doing here? What's my purpose? And just resetting that every day. And I think that's super important. A lot of clients have found a lot of freedom, also a lot of confidence in that too, like more so confidence than they would ever find if they had a weight goal or a measurement goal or anything like that. They would just find this confidence that there wasn't anxiety about it right around the corner. I feel like when a client hits a weight goal, I'm always celebrating with them, but there's always this added level of like, well, what's around the corner? Like, what about Halloween? What about the holidays? Am I just going to lose that again? Or am I going to gain that back? So, yeah.
Well, and even I feel like the weight thing is, I used to be super wrapped up in the numbers and trying to lose weight all the time and everything. And it's just interesting, like, and this is going to maybe sound a little weird if you're not a Christian, but I really believe that, especially for women, our obsession about that kind of stuff and the focus that we put on, whether it's the number on the scale, the number on, the specific lifts that we're going for, the number in our bank account, all these like metrics for how we measure ourselves and who we are and what we've achieved and everything. Like, I really feel like that is a spiritual attack on us to try to keep us focused on that stuff that doesn't even matter at all. Like, it's literally like meaningless in the grand scheme of life. And I really feel like the more Satan can keep us focusing on that stuff, he's not like, we're already, if we claim Jesus as our savior, obviously, like, there's nothing that Satan can do about that. Like, we've, received forgiveness. We are, we have eternal life, all of that amazing stuff that comes with salvation. But I feel like Satan's still, like, I always go back to John 10:10, where it says the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. If he can't stop you from getting saved, he can stop you from having an impact, right? Like a kingdom level impact. And if we're always worried about our workouts or our diet or the number on the scale or like what we look like in the mirror, the number on our jeans tag or like all that stuff that like I used to worry about a lot. So I'm not saying that, oh, you're like dumb if you worry about that. It's just, I know what it was like to be worried about that. And I can't even imagine like where my life would be now if I was stuck there, like remaining to care about that. And I just know being on the other side, knowing how much more meaningful and exciting and fun and like just incredible life is on the other side of not worrying about that stuff anymore and just like focusing on the stuff that God wants us to focus on. One of the reasons I'm so passionate about it is because I don't think enough people are having this conversation, whether it's at church or in the fitness industry, like there's not a lot of overlap happening. And so even those people who go to church and like get these really great messages from their pastor or like are reading the Bible, they're not combining it with their health behaviors. And it's almost like this completely separate thing that they're like, oh, my diet and my exercise, like that's mine. And God doesn't have anything to say about that. Like, I'm just going to figure it out on my own. And then I'm going to do my little devotional in the morning. And it's like just this complete separation. And I just don't think that that's healthy for most women to have that complete separation. And I just love that you talk about this stuff so boldly, because I really feel like if we don't talk about it, that's how, I mean, honestly, that's how Satan does his work, right? Like he keeps things in the dark and he keeps things hidden and he makes things look normal and he makes it look like this is just the way it is, or this is like what's cool in culture and that kind of thing, as opposed to it being very obviously damaging and harmful. Because if we knew how damaging and harmful it was, we probably wouldn't be doing it in most cases. So anyway, I just went on a total tangent there, but that's really how I feel about it. And I like to call stuff out like that because I really think I'm very truth oriented. Like I want people to know what the truth is. And so I'm willing to kind of like make people uncomfortable by saying what I think the truth is. But again, I think for me personally, it was really important for me to see that behavior and those beliefs as being actual, like somebody's trying to like harm you. And it's not you just being, not, what's the word? Like, it's not just me that is struggling. It's also that this is like calculated. This is like on purpose that this is happening to me. And I have a way out of it for sure. But if I don't acknowledge it, it's hard to escape it. And so I like to talk about it because I'm like, I want people to know that it's not just that they're somehow struggling in a weird way or something. It's just, if you know that you're constantly going to be under spiritual attack all the time, because, the more you step out for God, the more those attacks are going to come. It's just like being prepared for it, I think is really important. So anyway, I'll let you talk because you're the interviewee. I just get really excited talking about this stuff.
Yeah, that's a great point. And to that, I know a lot of thoughts came into my mind, but one of them was that Satan will capture the most prominent areas that God could shine in our life. And I am 100% in belief that fitness is one of the areas that we can worship God the most. Like you cannot pick up a 250-pound deadlift and not step back from that and say, dang, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Like you can't, like, there's no way. And if you have ever had an injury and have watched the way your body heals itself without you doing anything, like I think it's just such a huge testament to God's creativeness and his intricacies in creation. And kind of changing the narrative there and saying like, no, Satan, like you will not take away this most important part of my life that could show me how great and how fearfully I am made. And instead, he takes it, he mutes it, he wraps a blanket around it, and he makes it like our comfort sin. So, and I think you're right, 100%. It is an attack of Satan in a way that is trying to hold us back, in a way that's trying to not allow us to worship, because Satan hates it when we worship God. That's how we get closer to him. That's how we get closer to God, through worship. So, it's one of those ways that if he can hold us back, he is 100% going to. And I believe that it is just, very blatant when you look across the internet, you look across any social platform that you see. It's a very, very personal thing for people. And it's definitely a way that Satan is stopping people. It's holding them back. So yeah, for sure. 110% speak that truth.
Awesome. Well, I don't mean to derail your interview. I feel like there's not a lot of people that necessarily are open for that type of conversation, because it can definitely, especially if somebody's not Christian, it probably sounds a little crazy to talk about that kind of stuff. But obviously you and I are on the same page in believing that there's a lot happening in the spiritual realm that we don't see, but it is very, very strongly influencing us. Or it doesn't have to be, but it can be. If you're not paying attention, it's very easy for it to affect everything that we do. And I know that, I forget what the verse number is, but that verse that Satan prowls around like a lion looking to devour someone, it's not going away. It's not like, oh, I'm safe now, I don't get attacked anymore. It's like, no, you actually are going to get more attacked because now
you got a target on your back.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's get back into the intended conversation. So, because like I said, I mean, at the end of the day, the spiritual element is so important, and it's such a huge topic that we're not going to cover it in an hour-long interview, but I just love knowing that that's your philosophy and that's your perspective. And, that I know that when I send people your way, that they're going to get really good quality, not only educational content, but that you're never going to push them into something that would create that idol in their life, which is very important to me as someone who cares about people's spiritual health as much, or if not more, than their physical health. But let's get back into the physical health conversation, because this is something that I've been training with my trainer for 5.5 years now. And the way that I train now is so different than I used to train when I was in my 20s, because I had this belief about what good training was and what was necessary to be fit. Having been an athlete, obviously you train at a much different level than the average person. So when you're used to doing 2-a-days, 6 days a week as an athlete, you start to think, well, maybe 1-a-day, 6 days a week is the way that a normal person exercises. And it's just been really crazy to me to see what my body is capable of doing, even if I'm just training 3 days a week or 2 days a week, that kind of thing. So I think there's a lot of beliefs that women have about fitness that are just scientifically inaccurate. So I would love to hear from you, since you work in that zone so much more than I do. What are some of the common mistakes that you see women making in the gym when it comes to pursuing a stronger, healthier body?
Yeah, I would say there's probably 4 main ones that I see either in some type of variation, one or another. The first one is just being scared of lifting heavy, being comfortable just lifting, I call them the pink baby weights, which can be very useful, by the way. And if you're limited to those, you can still make progress. However, I do feel like there is a significant fear for women of picking up a barbell. Now, whether that fear is based in, well, I'm not experienced enough, or that fear is based in, I don't want to get bulky, is case by case. And I'm not making a blanket statement by saying that all women are scared because of getting bulky. However, it is a primary concern with a lot of women that I've worked with in my experience. And so I just kind of want to speak into that. And all of this being said after, becoming bulky is not bad. And if you change to become bigger and stronger, it's not a bad thing. So I also want to preface it with that. However, I also am a firm believer that most people on average don't have, unfortunately, the motivation or the dedication to get there if they really wanted to. What you don't see on the other side of the coin of bodybuilding and bikini competitions is that they're training, 12 to 15 hours a week in the gym. They're eating 3,000 calories a day, most likely are taking some type of testosterone or growth hormone supplement in addition to all of that. And so unless you fit into that category and you are 100% able to dedicate yourself to a very rigid training program, a large amount of time to dedicate, you most likely will not become that bulky. And so I just want to preface it with that. I mean, I've been lifting a barbell for a long time and I am no way ripping out of my pants. So it's just something to think about. And I just like to use that if your podcast listeners here are thinking to themselves, well, I need facts. I need something to hold on to besides this kind of headiness. And that is, we're talking about more of the deeper meaning, but from a scientific and fact-based perspective, unless you have that extreme level of dedication and time and food, and that's a lot of food, by the way, 3,000 calories a day is not easy to consume. So unless you have that, the chances of you becoming bulky by lifting a barbell or lifting something heavier than 5 pounds is very, very slim. So that's the first one. Second one is eating less, but doing more cardio is how you burn fat. This kind of sprouted from this concept that we tend to be metabolically flexible creatures. And what I mean by that is that our body can pull from carbohydrates or fats as a fuel source. It's incredible that our body is even capable of doing that. It can be measured typically in a lab. That's part of like exercise physiology and all that cool stuff. But out of that came this they found out that while we are doing low intensity cardio, like LIST, which stands for low intensity steady state, walking, running, we tend to be burning more carbohydrates or more fats, or what people would call it. So in that is as long as we're staying in that low intensity, we're burning more fats in the lower intensity. So in that, people are like, oh, I'm burning more fat, so I'm going to be burning fat off my body if I stay in this, aerobic conditioning zone. And it's just not the case. And actually on the flip side of that, if you're doing too much cardio, you're actually going to increase your levels of cortisol. And cortisol is that hormone. Our body makes it naturally. It gets a really bad rap. It's not all bad. Our body creates it intentionally. However, just like too much of anything, it becomes a bad thing in our body, especially if it stays elevated for a long period of time, which tends to happen with a lot of people who overdo it on cardio. And so when you have way too much cardio, which they're trying to burn fat, it's kind of this burning the candle at both ends. They have this elevated cortisol level. And then on top of that, they're creating a caloric deficit by cutting down their calories. So, and with that, they may see some results initially, but then those typically after like that 3-month period, I've talked with so many clients who are like, well, I started tracking my food, I started cutting down calories, I started running, and I saw like, I lost 20 pounds right away. I'm like, well, that's awesome. Well, what happens now? And they're like, well, I'm stuck. And not only are they stuck, but they're also depleted. They've got hormonal imbalances. They've got a lot of issues psychologically as well as a result. So again, eating less and doing more cardio is not the way to burn fat. The way to burn fat is by changing your body composition overall. And that's by improving muscle, eating more food, getting enough rest, making sure that you are doing cardio at some point for cardiovascular and respiratory health. However, really strength training 2 to 3 times a week is all you need to get that change in body composition, especially if you're following a good strength training complete plan there. So that's the second one.
I just want to mention real quick on that one. It's very interesting to me. I've noticed over the last several years of, doing the regular training and everything like that, that I'm less sensitive to fluctuations in like food intake. Like my body weight does not really change that much anymore. Whereas when I was doing a lot of exercise and dieting and everything, like the minute I would go off my diet, I would feel like my weight would just like balloon back up or even go higher than it was before. So it is interesting to me. It's not as like sexy because you don't like drop 20 pounds in a couple of months or something like that. But I really like knowing that my body is pretty stable. So if I'm like, even with COVID, when the gyms all shut down, like I couldn't work out for months. And I think a lot of people probably freaked out and were like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna like lose all my fitness and everything. And it was for me very nice to just say, I'm not glad that I can't go to the gym and I love working out. So I don't want to just live this way forever. But knowing that my body was not going to change because I've built that stable foundation of like eating enough and training appropriately and taking care of myself the right way, that I knew that my body could handle some changes in stress levels and exercise levels and even food levels. Cause I was probably eating more because we were like, there wasn't a lot to do. So it's like, oh, let's like get some takeout or something. So, so my whole point to say is, the strategy that you teach, I think actually really helps people get to their healthy weight and stay there much more easily without anywhere near the level of like focus and attention that I think if you're doing things the other way, that you have to be so micromanaging about everything. And like the minute you do anything differently, your body just like freaks out.
Yeah, for sure. I love it when someone comes up to me and they're like, hey, how do I get stronger? Because it's one of the best things you can do is to put muscle on your body. After the age of 30, in general, women start to lose about 3 to 5% of their muscle mass. And for females, it's super important for us to have a good amount of muscle mass, especially leading up to that point of decrease as we hit age 30 and go on. Specifically with older women, it's super important in the case of a fall to have a good amount of muscle mass. But to your point of being able to maintain a more consistent energy, muscles are super metabolic tissue. They are burning, they're burning calories. Yes, not as much as we once thought, but they are burning a good amount of calories. And in addition to that, they help our body to improve our insulin sensitivity. So it's really helpful from that perspective. I've had a lot of clients who have had diabetes, and as an unexpected result of getting stronger, their levels have improved and they've been super excited. They're like, I wasn't expecting this, but just getting stronger really helped with a lot of those other things. So yeah, spot on there. And then I would say the last one is you can't spot reduce. It's one of the things that I probably get asked about the most, like, especially from people who don't know me. They'll tend to be like, oh, you're a trainer. How do I get rid of this? And they like wave their arm flab or something like that. But training a muscle does not burn the fat that is around it. It just makes the muscle stronger. Can it improve your body composition? Yes. So that you're maybe burning a little bit more calories and you may like reduce fat overall, but you can't decide where your body pulls fat from. That's more due to your genetics, your body type, your sex. All of those things are going to be more of a predictor than the exercises that you choose of where you lose body fat. So yeah, I'd kind of tie that up with a bow with that one. The biggest myth that most people believe in fitness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always kind of laugh at those like Pinterest, like here's how to lose the arm fat. And it's like, yeah. I mean, I definitely think building arm muscles will make you feel like your arms look better, whatever better means, right? Like, cause it's all relative. But it's not like doing 1,000 curls is going to just like melt your arm fat or something, which is like, people still believe it. It's like, I don't know how that rumor is just kind of stuck around, but it's probably because of Pinterest, right? People put those things on
Pinterest and Google searches. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. So, and I wanted to ask you about perfectionism with exercise, because in some ways, sometimes I like understand why people that don't have a relationship with God or like don't really think about God, like I understand why they become perfectionist in other areas, or they get obsessive about things like their fitness. Cause, in my mind, if you don't have a relationship with God, like you're going to be super vulnerable to being obsessed and focusing on stuff that culture tells us to obsess about. So it makes sense to me. But when somebody's a Christian and they're doing that same behavior, to me, I'm just wondering, like, first of all, how does that happen? Second of all, sometimes I actually find that Christian women can be even more obsessive about being quote unquote perfect with their health and their fitness and everything. So why, and first of all, do you see that? I see you nodding. So I'm assuming that you see it too. And if that's true, then why do you think so many Christian women struggle with that, that perfectionism around their exercise routine?
Yeah, I'd say it's 100% true. On almost every new client intake form I get, like people are rattling off all of the good things that they're doing and immediately trying to prove themselves. And I'm going to probably be popping a lot of perfectionist bubbles with this when I say that good enough doesn't exist. This concept of like, I could be fit enough, I could be lean enough, I could be strong enough. Like there is no final end to your fitness journey, or really like life's journey. Like that end is your tombstone. So if you're in a rush to get there, like by all means, but yeah, it's just one of those things. I feel like we're in this rush where we have all this pressure to be good enough. And I always ask them like, well, what is good enough? Like what's strong enough for you? What's lean enough for you? And a lot of people have a really hard time verbalizing that because they just don't know like why they feel this pressure to be this way. But again, I'd kind of root it back to like, we are really like trying to become our own savior. And I would say that's highly addicting. Like look at very successful people out there in the world who have made a lot of money. Like it is addicting, which is why they tend to like keep grinding. Like you get better at one thing in CrossFit, you get better at one thing at Orange Theory. Like you want to go to the next thing and the next thing, and it's addicting. And I think that it kind of uses like that dopamine chain in our mind of like craving success because we get this little reward from someone. Like we'll get a compliment from someone, and that kind of, it feeds our ego a little bit more. We'll get a lower dress size or lower jean size, whatever it is. And it kind of feeds it a little bit more. And it's this fire that eventually can just consume your entire life. And before you realize it, you don't have friends, you don't have a faith that actually holds to anything, or a faith that will ground you. I really like to consume it, or not to consume it. I like to compare it to like the Mary and Martha in Luke, where Mary is just like sitting at the feet of Jesus, and she's just like oohing and awing over everything that he's saying and taking it in and like engaging in the relationship with Jesus. And Martha's in the kitchen, like she comes out and she's like, hello, like I am doing all of this work. Why are you not helping me, Mary? Like you're just sitting here. And I can completely resonate with Martha, because there's just so many areas in my life where if I'm not very conscientious of my purpose, that I just get so busy doing and hopping into the doing. And I think it kind of feeds this fire of like, I'm being more successful by doing this. I'm becoming more acceptable by doing this. And so whether you're a believer or not, I think that number one, success is addicting, especially in fitness, because it has this physical component to it. So not only do you have this mental, but you also have this rush of hormones and endorphins that feel really good. And you have this physical connection to it. So I'd say, like, to answer it, to overcome the pressures and burdens of that like perfectionist mindset, we need to first accept our innate brokenness, right? Like you need to accept that you striving after that in the long run will only break you, especially if you let it consume you. And we need a savior outside of ourselves, right? Like we need someone to either step in and show us Christ, or step in and show us the better way. And having that voice of truth in our life, I think, is really important, whether that comes from a coach, whether that comes from a pastor, a friend, whatever it is. I think we all need someone who can speak truth into our life. And that no matter the volume of our own efforts or earnings, we can never find the lasting peace and contentment that just resting in Jesus will. And I think that's super important. So that's why I incorporated faith as a component into all of my training. Like in some way, people are getting verses, they're getting my ebook, they're getting all of these things that will help point them ultimately to something outside of me. Yes, I can coach them, but something outside of me that can help them in their own journey.
Mm-hmm. I love the Mary Martha story. And I definitely sadly resonate with Martha a lot of the times as well. Cause it's like, I almost feel like it's this belief that if we don't do something that somehow, I don't say it like super dramatically, but that like the world's going to fall apart if we're not keeping it together. And like, I definitely fall into that, that struggle. And for me, it's much less about like my health and my fitness and all that. And a lot of times it shows up in my work, because it is, again, that same level of like, it can become addicting to make more money. It can become addicting to even like help more people, like seeing results that my clients are getting. Like, I love it. And it is something that it's not a bad thing. It's just that can take over, and that can be the sole focus that I have. And I do think it actually takes a lot of trust in God to actually rest, because like, if you trust God that he's taking care of you, whether it's financially, physically, mentally, whatever it is, taking time off shouldn't scare you, or like not being in control shouldn't scare you, because first of all, control is an illusion. None of us are in control. So like the even idea that we are in control is actually false. But then knowing that, like really truly believing that God is in control, allows us to be in that rest state without feeling anxious or antsy or anything like that. And it's hard. And I'm not saying this from a place of like, oh yeah, I'm like super relaxed and I'm always like engaging in rest. Cause it's like an active, like, I really think it's going to be a constant battle until I die, basically, that I'm always kind of fighting that desire to be productive and achieve and all of that stuff. But I do really think at the core of people not wanting to rest, it's because they don't believe that God is in control, and that they believe if they stop even just for a second, that they're going to lose something. They're going to lose their body, their health, their finances, like whatever it is. And Jesus didn't die so that we were going to live like that. Like he died for us to live like Mary, where we get to rest, we get to like have relationship with him, we get to have relationship with other people. And it doesn't matter what the house looks like. It doesn't matter what our bodies look like. It doesn't matter how much money we have. Like all of that stuff actually does not matter when it comes to the core of like what we're designed for. And it's really, really challenging to get to a place where that's, your mindset. But I feel like it's just this constant, like you said, renewing the mind every day to remember, like, this is what I was created for. And all of that other business running, money making, people serving, like all of that other stuff that I get really attached to, it's actually not the thing that matters the most in my life. And it's hard though. It's definitely, and I feel like you're similar to me as far as like wanting to really, use your talents and, help people. And I would imagine you might have some similar challenges with kind of like slowing your roll a little bit and taking some time for rest.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I feel like if I don't say I miss a workout, and this is something that I actually faced last week, like I just had a day where like I had listed out all my responsibilities, and workout was one of them. And I was like, yeah, it's not happening today. And so I missed my workout, and then I had rescheduled it for Sunday. And Sunday we served hospitality at our church, and it ran a little bit longer, and it didn't get a workout then. And I just kind of came to this place of like, well, I could like go get a strength workout in, but I just didn't have the motivation for it. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go for a walk and listen to some Chris Tomlin. And it was very relaxing. But I was just thinking back how like even 3 months ago, it's not something I would have done. It's something I would have really struggled to do. And yeah, I did want to make a point too with this, that some people may be listening to this and thinking, okay, well, what do I do to like just sit back on the couch and eat a donut? Like, do I not care about my body at all? And no, I'd say absolutely to the heck no. You should care about your body, because your body is the greatest gift outside of salvation, in your family, that I believe that God has given you. And we only get one. And I believe that stewardship is something as a Christian, as a believer, that is a discipline we should practice every day. So to wrap up, I guess, the conversation, there's a big difference between earning and effort, right? Like, you're not earning acceptance by training, but showing effort does allow you to worship God better, and for God to see that you are, in awe and wonder of the gift that he's given you. And so I think those, daily renewing your mind, taking care of your body by fueling it appropriately, getting it stronger, all of those things don't earn you anything, but they sure do show appreciation for the gift that you've been given. It's like being given this like incredible gift by someone of extreme honor and just like putting it in a closet. Like, you just wouldn't do that. You'd put it on a shelf, you keep it dusted, you keep it well lit, you'd want to show it off, and to the extent of showing respect for the person who gave you the gift. And so I just want to preface the conversation with that, as I know a lot of people who can kind of go down this road of like, well, it doesn't matter how I treat my body, it's not my identity, but it is a part of the gift that God has given you. And as that, we should care for it and love it well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like there's so much extremes in our culture. It's either be obsessed with your body or don't care, right? Like it's very extreme. And I am very pro personal responsibility, right? Like I don't think anyone should be blamed for their, if they do have a health problem. I don't think like shaming someone over their weight or their health or anything like that is ever appropriate. And obviously different people are given different circumstances with their physical health. But I also do believe that, like you said, we have a responsibility to care for our bodies. I'm like very like politically libertarian, and I'm like, the government shouldn't have to take care of our bodies. Like we're all responsible for our own bodies. And so, working out, like finding time to exercise, I think is a responsibility that we have, like finding a way to be active, because we don't live in a culture anymore that like activity is just baked into our day-to-day life. Like if you wanted to just sit around all day and still do all your normal day-to-day life activities, you actually could, right? So like being active is no longer a necessity. So then it's a responsibility to get activity into your routine, with the understanding that like taking a walk counts, right? Like going on a walk with your dog, or I have some great gym equipment that we've invested in this year because of COVID, but I don't lift every single day. Like there's days where I'm like, I'm really not up for it. I'm tired. Like I had a long work day. I'm just going to go for a walk. Or I have a Peloton that I really was shocked how much I enjoy it. But if it's like a 15-minute Peloton ride, in the past, I would have thought like 15 minutes, that's like nothing. And now I'm at the stage where I'm like, dude, if I can just get a 15-minute Peloton ride in and then like walk my dog for 20 minutes, like that feels like a good movement day for me. And again, it's not about, I'm a bad person if I don't do it. It's just, I know that physically, once you get in your 30s, nothing is like easily maintained anymore as far as your health is concerned. So if I don't do that, I will see the depreciation of my energy, my mental clarity, how I feel physically. And so it's not even about maintaining a certain body fat percentage or a weight or anything about that anymore. It's more the knowledge that like my body needs movement for it to function normally and optimally. And if I don't carve out space in my schedule for that movement, it will not happen. So it's taking responsibility for that and seeing that it is a good thing, but I don't have to be obsessed with it. And if I miss it for a day or a week, or even like, I think it was like 6 weeks or something that I didn't do any exercise when COVID first hit, because like we didn't have any equipment at our house. Mm-hmm. It's okay, because I know that that's not the most important thing. So it is this interesting combination of having your priorities in the right place, but still actually prioritizing your health. And I think so many people, it's so all or nothing. And our culture really does have this opposite. It's either that, you have to earn your worth and earn your, value in society, and like, you're not good enough as you are, or, the opposite response to that, which is like, you don't have to do anything. And like, you're owed this, good life or whatever. And like, any sort of injustice you're facing is somebody else's responsibility. And like, that's, I think, a mindset that gets pushed a lot too. And I think both of them are wrong. And I think that middle ground is really where we need to live in. And it's not always easy.
Messy middle is never easy. And it's hard because, you tell people that you're not part of a specific camp, whether it comes to health and fitness or even faith. Right. And people are like, oh, how do you do that? I feel like we're kind of holding on to like hope, and we're also holding on to like hurt. We're holding on to two things at one time, and we are in the messy middle. But I honestly believe like when Jesus was here on earth, like he was very much so in the messy middle. And I think that he, lived among sinners and was not a sinner. Like he did all of the things that just seem so contrary, and his whole economy, God's economy, is just so upside down. So it's hard to sit in the messy middle, but I find that that's where there's the most contentment. That's where the most amount of peace is. And also just, like you had mentioned, ownership for your body, ownership for your health, I think comes in that as well.
Mm-hmm, definitely. So. Well, I could probably talk to you about this for a very long time. Cause like I said, there's not a lot of people out there that necessarily have this mindset where they're combining two different, usually very separate worlds. So it's really cool to have this conversation with you. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of women that want to chat with you further, or want to connect with you and want to learn more about what you do. So where would you say would be the best way for them to get more from you if they want to have this middle ground, effective approach to fitness that also allows them to be pursuing the things that are important to them?
Absolutely. Yeah. I am on the gram, as it's now called, the social platform of Instagram. I'm on there. You can find me at True Strength Collective, or you can find me on my website at truestrengthcollective.com. And
I know that you have a program that I'm sure by the time this podcast goes live, has launched and is a really exciting way that you're going to be serving people. So can you tell them a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So I'll be launching in 2021 the True Strength Builder program. It is a monthly exercise subscription, which you get delivered directly to your fingertips. It also includes a Boulder Faith Journal. So like I talked about in the podcast, you have that daily renewing of your mind, in addition to just some awesome evidence-based strength training. So I also throw in some conditioning workouts in there for you, but you have access to that all in an app. It is a full program. So it includes the warm-ups, the cool downs, mobility work, you name it, to have a good solid program out there, which is just pretty rare. So I have that available for people starting in 2021. The waitlist is available online, truestrengthcollective.com/waitlist. So if they're interested in learning more about that, either head on over to my Instagram and click the link in my profile, or go directly to the website there.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel like the way that you train is very similar to what my trainer does from like a functional perspective. And then just being able to throw that faith and mindset piece in there is so crucial, because again, people can get obsessed with this stuff, or they can feel like since they can't be perfect, they might as well not even try. And I really love that you get to fix both of those problems with the work that you do. So one last question I have for you before I let you go is one that I ask a lot of my guests. I'm not super consistent with it for everybody, but I think it'll be a good one for you. And that is, what do you believe makes somebody more than a body?
I say Jesus. Can I have the Sunday school answer of Jesus? Because he really does. But also, like, if Jesus is not a big part of your life, just recognize that you have a purpose here on this earth that is bigger than you. And so if Jesus isn't a part of your life, love others, and that you are more than a body, because you are put here on this earth to make a difference in the life of someone else. And you have unique gifts and talents and a personality that you have been only you gifted with, and that you can use those to serve and love other people, whether God is a big part of your life or not. And if God is a big part of your life, realize that God is infinitely in love with you, and that this world isn't about you. This life isn't about you. And so you should use your health, you should use your fitness to serve and love God ultimately, and then to use your body to be a servant to other people around you. Bam.
That was a mic drop. Just pull out your little AirPods and just throw them on the ground.
Done.
I love it. Yeah, it's I have nothing to add to that. That was great. So thank you, Laura, so much for your time, your expertise. You're willing to have a definitely different conversation with me than I think probably a lot of podcasts are talking about. And again, if somebody's not Christian, like I hope it's come very clear that neither Laura nor I judge you or think you're a bad person. It's just, this is the gospel, right? It's like, we want people to see that like, we're not like this. We're not confident and joyful and like at peace because we like have some kind of secret strategy or something that we found that like is, for a low price of $9.97, you can pay us for the strategy. It's like literally both Laura and I come back to our relationship with God and our right standing in Jesus every single day to help us on our journey to, overcome insecurity and to feel really clear about who we are in God's eyes. So I just like to mention that because I know religion can be a super sticky, scary topic to talk about, and I don't think it has to be. And I think there's a lot of really amazing stuff that comes on the other side of being willing to have that conversation. So I appreciate you playing that with me.
Absolutely. It was a blast.
Awesome. Well, thank you to all of you for hanging out with us for the last hour, and we will see you here next week on the Fed and Fearless podcast. Take care, everybody.
Hey everyone, Laura Schoenfeld here again. As you know, I absolutely love working with women from all walks of life to help them create a purpose-filled life that they love. And over the past 2 years, I've expanded my mission to help nutrition business owners drop the hustle and come into alignment with their ideal business goals so they can work from a sense of ease and abundance and grow their income and their impact with joy. Unlike other business coaches, I have experience in the integrative and functional medicine, health, and wellness industry. And I've heavily invested in my own online business training and mentorship to get to a place where I'm now bringing in multiple six figures of revenue on an annual basis. Would you believe that I've invested over $130,000 in my own business development and mentorship over the past 7+ years? And honestly, that's just the financial cost of growing my business. It's taken me hours and hours of testing, learning, experimenting, and lots of failing to get to the place where I am today. After all this, I can tell you one thing with absolute certainty. There's no way I would be where I am today if I had not been willing to invest in my growth and to find the incredible mentors who have helped me accelerate my business faster than I ever imagined. The truth is that running an online business can be incredibly isolating. And if you don't have the right strategy or systems in place, it can take up nearly every waking minute of your free time, which is a recipe for a major health disaster and some serious business burnout. To grow your business to six figures and beyond without destroying your physical and mental health, you need support from both a mentor and a community of people who know what it's like to run a nutrition business online, who can help you succeed faster and easier than you'd be able to on your own. And that's why I'm so excited to offer a space for you to experience joyful and profitable business growth while being surrounded and supported by other driven nutritionists on the same thrilling journey of entrepreneurship. This opportunity is my annual mastermind. In the mastermind, you'll create relationships that will last a lifetime and achieve results in your business that you never would have imagined for yourself. If you want to learn more about this mastermind opportunity, go to lauraschoenfeld.com/mastermind. On that page, you'll find everything you need to know about what the mastermind includes and how to apply for your spot. I'd love to connect with you further about the business that you're growing and how the mastermind can help you support your goals. So go to lauraschoenfeld.com/mastermind to send in your application, and I look forward to chatting with you soon.